Welcome to Hometown Happenings. I'm Carol McCarthy here on Big Detroit Lake today. It's our occasional series on loving our lakes to death. I'm here with folks from Natural Innovations, Dan Olson, and also Lori Clark, working with R&B Laboratories. Dan also works with the AMPCA. And I've got Sally Hoskin, who is a property owner here in Detroit Lakes. And we are talking about how we love our lakes so much that sometimes we hurt our lakes. But Dan, what are we going to talk about today?
Well, what we talked about on past shows was some of the practices that maybe aren't the best for the lake and is contributing to the problems that we're having with excessive nutrients in the lakes and that type of thing. And today we're talking about what people can do to cut down on the amount of nutrients that are getting into our lakes by changing their practices along the shoreline. What they do and what they plant can have a big impact on keeping what's happening on the land, and out of the lake. And what Sally has done here has done just that. She's left the shoreline natural and in fact has planted some beneficial species of plants that are going to stay in place and hold the soil in place and is going to filter everything that's coming from back there before it gets to the lake.
All right, excellent. And we're going to also talk about some resources where you can find some native plants as well. Sally, now what are you doing here? What are some of the plants that you have planted here along the lakeshore?
I've planted a lot of different ones. However, the things that typically are strong are the invasive exotics. Now, in this case, reed canary. You can see the seed heads there, and the seed heads get a graceful curve to them. A lot of people don't like reed canary, but I do, because I think it has that graceful curve to its seed head, and it also has a pretty creamy color in the fall. The major reason that people would want to allow their lakeshore to grow up in other plants, in plants that maybe they aren't geraniums and impatiens and so forth, is they want a buffer zone. And the buffer zone protects the rest of your land. I see people with manicured yards, and the Kentucky bluegrass only grows about that deep. The roots are that shallow. When the lake overflows or rough waves hit the Kentucky bluegrass, that erodes very quickly. Now, little by little, I have tried to put in plants that are native plants. I was just noticing now that I've got a pretty healthy batch of snowberry in there. Snowberry, it's a low bush. Typically it was a first row of a windbreak in the Dakotas, and it only grows very low. It's called snowberry because it has white berries, but it has pretty pink flowers. The disadvantage I have is that I have my sun doesn't come on my shoreline until about 2:30 in the afternoon. But erosion control is one big thing that people ask me about, and one plant that can help, whether you're on a steep slope or even, is rose bushes. Another one is sumac. If you're on a steep slope and you can't see out down below anyhow, the sumac would be okay. It gets kind of tall, but it's okay. I also have planted a few chokecherry bushes, and they go nice. And I've tried to put in some red twig dogwood. There's a red twig dogwood there, and that's coming along just fine. But all of those things are going to hold the soil very well.
And I might have to add that you are a master gardener too, but you don't have to be a master gardener to find these plants.
Absolutely not. I want to tell you an interesting story. When I bought this place in 1974 out of my great aunt's estate, and my aunt would roll over in the grave because she kept it manicured. But the minute I bought it in 1974, I haven't mowed it since. So, the thing that happens is I think I get a nice buffer zone. I know that I keep the geese out. That's another thing. If you have Kentucky bluegrass, the geese are going to love your property. Mine they won't come on to because they don't know about predators in the tall grasses.
And that's one thing that we talked about, Dan. I know that you had mentioned that on our last episode too. Is that you do keep the geese and the unwanted guests away too. And in the second half, we're also going to talk to you about what you can do on the land to help protect our lakes and keep our waters clean. And Lori, now you have some literature. If you're not a master gardener like Sally, if you wanted to get some ideas as to native plants and what you can do, you have some literature here for us.
Yeah, there's so many resources out there for anyone who wants to learn more about this. Just here I have DNR pamphlets. There's a DNR book here. The DNR has a great website. You can go to the Restore Your Shore website and work on that. Otherwise, the county has a publication too called Shoreline Guide to Lake Stewardship, and you can grab that from the county courthouse or other county offices.
All right, okay, and I know that you work with property owners as well with RMB Labs, getting out and helping people restore their shore as well.
Yes, yep. We are active in getting DNR grants for the Pelican Lakes for restoring their shores.
Excellent. I'm here today with Sally Hoskin, Lori Clark, and Dan Olson. We're talking about how people are loving their lakes to death, how we can stop loving our lakes to death and loving our land and helping keep the lake. And
do we have time for one little story?
Sure, Sally, for you.
Yeah, shortly after 1974, Prairie Restorations was just starting, and I was working in the Twin Cities, and I went up to Princeton to talk to Ron Bowen, and he advised me to plant little bluestem. So I dug up my reed canary and totally unleashed the shoreline and planted little bluestem, and after about 2.5 weeks a big wind came along, and that was the end of all the little bluestem seeds. So now I go by the seat of my pants and I just dig a couple holes and plant something and see if it'll work.
All right, excellent. I think that's how many of us may do this. So we'll take a quick break and be back with more Hometown Happenings after this. Welcome back to Hometown Happenings. I'm here today with Sally Hoskin, Lori Clark, and Dan Olson. We are on the back side, the riparian part of the lake.
We were there.
The riparian.
Now we're on the roadside.
All right, okay.
Which is prairie.
Which is prairie, but it is also very important. You've done a lot of work on the roadside to help our environment, help our lake. And what do we have here, Sally?
We have some very nice natives all along, and I have worked very hard. I've done 2 burns. I did one last fall and one this spring, and then I did do some Roundup, which I normally don't do, but I was trying to get rid of a few of them, and I dug out quite a few things. So I have lovely natives now. I have bergamot, I have oxeye, I have cordgrass, I have switchgrass, I have big and little bluestem, I have Indian grass, I have Sido's grandmas in there a little bit.
Sally, we don't have enough time for how many. All right. So, but the moral of the story is that you've been working hard on putting native plants in here and
native prairie grasses.
All right. And Dan, and Lori, why is this so important to keep the natives? And what we're learning today about all Sally's work with the lake and the land.
Yeah, well, like she just mentioned, having the more diversification you get in plants with grasses and forbs, especially the combination, they say, generates the best output for the soil and everything. And also what she's going to accomplish by doing this now, when she's got it so well established, the maintenance goes way down. It pretty much takes care of itself now from now on pretty much, and there's going to be very little maintenance. So once you put in a little effort in the front, or actually a lot of effort in the front end like she's done now she can start to relax a little bit and just enjoy it now from now on.
Dan Olson, Lori Clark, and Sally Hoskin. And again, Lori, lots of resources here in the community that people can look up for plants that Sally was talking about, how they can get their hands on them.
Yep, you could definitely contact the SWCD, the Soil and Water Conservation District, or a county office to get more information.
All right, excellent. And I want to thank Sally, Lori, and Dan for appearing with me today on this beautiful day in July. And hopefully we'll have another episode soon as we love our lakes to death and try not to love our lakes to death, but try to enjoy our lakes and try to help our environment as well.
Plant diversity brings healthy soil and healthy surroundings.
Right. For TV3, along with Sally, Lori, and Dan, I'm Carol McCarthy.